When we embark on our Starfield journey and explore the settled systems, we'll be meeting a lot of characters. Major factions like the United Colonies and Freestar Collective, Crimson Fleet pirates, ecliptic mercenaries, and even snake-worshipping cultists. But one group is a bit more enigmatic. Surprised to see other humans and a border ship that looks quite different to most of the ones we've seen so far, this group appeared to be human colonists from Earth. But when did they leave, and where could they be going? In today's video, we're compiling all of the relevant clips and dialogue that could help us answer these questions, as well as examining what are potentially some pretty big similarities between this group and the vaults from the Fallout series, before finishing up with some theories over their ultimate destination and how they could feature in Starfield's story. Of course, this video is mostly speculation, but kicking things off, we're taking a look at their ship, the ECS Constant. We see the Spacefarer approaching it to begin with, and notably it appears to be drifting. It also seems to be one of the largest vessels we've seen so far, outside of the UC Vigilance and the different space stations. ECS is an abbreviation we don't see anywhere else as well, which I think could be for Earth Colony Ship. This exterior shot leads into the interior sequence, which we'll be returning to look at more closely later on, because after watching back the direct footage again, and some of the older trailers, we actually see this type of ship more than I was expecting. In the opening sequence for the launch date announcement trailer, we can see another one, and like the ECS Constant, it's drifting in space, and very faintly you can actually hear some audio. It's difficult to make out, but it could be a faint distress call. It was interesting that this particular clip made it into that trailer, as it was very short and it mostly focused on the rings. But back to the direct footage, and this could be a brief shot of one as well.
And exploring derelict ships.
But I think the most significant shot is actually this one. After touching one of the mysterious artifacts in the trailer, a supercut of clips is shown, including a partially buried launch platform and a ship that actually never left the ground. Visually, this structure isn't too dissimilar from launch platforms found at the Kennedy Space Center and other NASA installations. And if you zoom in on the bottom, you can just make out what appears to be a similar logo to NASA's, with NASX emblazoned on the bottom of the launch pad. Visually, the environment matches the shot of the archway, which could also be what's left of the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri. Partially buried in the sand, this model of ship required a platform to take off, which immediately seemed to be unique from what we've seen with the other ships in Starfield, suggesting perhaps that this model could be older. But purely from a visual standpoint, if we compare the design of these two, and yeah, I think these are actually the same. So, to summarise before moving on to those interiors, assuming that those desolate shots are Earth and all the ships we've looked at are Earth colony ships, these large vessels left Earth via launch pads to head out into the stars. What they are escaping from we can only speculate, but the technology of the craft didn't appear to account for fast travel, as we find them floating, waiting to be boarded, but what we find inside might also explain why they're drifting like this, and it wasn't exactly the worst thing. Starting with this incredibly familiar door opening sequence, and yeah, let's pair them together for the best viewing. Straight away upon seeing this sequence, I think it really screams Fallout. Focusing on the characters though, they seem to be wearing colour-coded suits of the same design. The central figure appears to be the senior, given their position and narration in the following clip.
You're human. We thought we were the only ones to leave Earth.
And yeah, straight away in the next clip we also see multiple characters walking around with the same type of suits, but these are actually a different colour. But let's stop for a moment to look around. We have catwalks, reinforced walls which look very familiar too, and an extensive hydroponics facility. Doesn't this look an awful like a vault? Hydroponics were a pretty common feature for a better life underground, and no doubt there is a lot more in this vessel that we aren't seeing. Now what's coming next is a bit of a tinfoil hat theory, because I'm not completely sold that these two universes will be officially linked. But there are admittedly a lot of similarities or Easter eggs for Fallout. New Atlantis was found in 2161 in Starfield, and 2161 is also the year Fallout story actually begins, with the Vault Dweller sent out into the waste to search for the water chip. More topical though were some recent revelations from CAIN, original creator of Fallout, on his YouTube channel. I really recommend checking it out if you haven't already, but in an episode entitled The True Purpose of Vaults, this is what he had to say about them. Contrary to what its demonstration vaults would claim, the vaults were not meant to save humanity in general. The entire program was hijacked by a national conspiracy involving human experimentation overseen by what would become the Enclave. Project Safe House was subverted for its own ends, and rather than act to save humanity directly, vaults were actually built to test their population as part of the Societal Preservation Program. The program was basically a vast data gathering exercise to provide the Enclave with the information necessary to construct a multi-generational starship that would take a select group of people, the best and brightest, off-world to colonize new worlds, rather than try to restore the Earth. Enclave projections assumed that the worst possible outcome was always going to be global thermonuclear war, which would render Earth completely uninhabitable. And yeah, this is essentially what I've been building to, but I think that these colony ships in Starfield are actually multi-generational starships that have been travelling for a long time, and actually set out a long time before any of the other colonists. Because of the ship's technology at the time, they weren't equipped with space folding tech and gravitational jumps that we have access to, and instead are travelling at high relativistic speeds. In a weird twist of fate, these characters we meet are actually the descendants of the original colonists who left Earth, multiple generations passing in seclusion on a completely self-sustaining ship, a space vault if you will. Completely isolated and either unable or disinterested in contacting anyone else, our arrival is actually a genuine surprise, believing themselves to be the last community of humans left alive. I appreciate that this is all very speculative, so definitely let me know your thoughts or theories in the comments, but how interesting would it be to find communities like this in Starfield? Perhaps even borrowing more features from Fallout's vaults, with some working in more sinister ways, each colony ship having developed in a different way over time. These other clips, although seemingly unrelated on first viewing, could also be in colony ships. We see this man wearing a suit and the lady wearing Egyptian garb, and in this clip a man stands next to a window overlooking a large space filled with Earth antiquities. An overseer perhaps. But how do you think the newly discovered colonists will feel about the major factions active in Starfield? And will they be a big part of the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. For now though, that is it. I'll be back with more in-depth Starfield videos soon, focusing on a variety of topics from the showcase, taking a closer look at the building mechanics, factions, and some more developed theories about the artifacts in the main story. If you enjoyed this particular video, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. We'll be posting more Starfield content and a variety of Fallout content, so turning on the bell icon is definitely the best way to stay up to date. With that said, well, I'm off. Thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next one.